Oh, actually, I do.
There you go. Thank you very much for that. And then when you're done, I'm going to just buzz around the other rooms. I'll be back. When you're done, we'll upload that to, we'll let you know where to upload it in the Telegram chat. Okay, thanks so much, you guys. Sorry for interrupting.
No worries. Thank you. Okay, yeah. So how this is going to go is I'll have a small introduction to the topic, and then we'll also share a little bit about our project, Wire Collective. There was initially supposed to be Robert, who was also going to present his project, but I don't think he's here. So also maybe Blaine, if you want to present what Empower does, I think that should also work, and then we can just have a conversation. So I guess I'll start a bit. I already said that the initial the topic that I got was financing projects with high social impact, which is, I would say, a part of environmental impact as well. And yeah, so what I want to focus on right now is financing projects in developing countries, because I think Cardano and blockchain actually have a huge opportunity there. And why is that? So most developing countries have really bad financial infrastructure. For example, I live in Uganda, and here the national interest rate is about 20%, which compared to the developed world right now with around 0% is very much. And additionally, it's still really hard to even get a loan. So that's really the local market. And of course, there's also international investors or funders. But most of projects get funded by most funders are large institutions such as development agencies, the World Bank, and they have their own interests, right? They don't do this for fun, and they have their own interests. They have their own. They also need to sustain themselves, and they usually also work with a lot of governments, which is not necessarily bad, but these governments are not always stable and also might corrupt some of the money. And on the other hand, you also have microcredit organizations, which really have gained popularity. But what I see, especially here in Africa, is that this is really a vicious cycle, because these are very short-term, very small loans that go maybe 1 or 2 months. And the interest is still quite high. So yeah, people really just, they get the loan, they work, but then all of the capital that they could reinvest, that they have to then pay back in interest. So also that's also not a solution that really works. So the financial infrastructure and the funding opportunities are really not that great. And I believe that we now really have a huge opportunity as a blockchain community, because blockchain and cryptocurrency can provide borderless and an incorruptible way to finance. So basically, we can bypass all of these malfunctioning, slow institutions in the developed world, but also in the developing world that are also not very well connected at all. And especially, we can make the decision making of where the money goes free from decentralized power, and we can actually give the people the say that do give the money, but also the ones that actually get it and that are affected by it. So I think with this new power to give money fast, borderless, we can create entirely new initiatives and structures. Connecting capital to, for example, projects in developing countries or other projects that are normally underfunded or that have a hard time getting funded very easily. And that really means that for the first time in history, we can really connect and allocate large amounts of money to developing countries, to these projects in a very efficient peer-to-peer manner, and really have that instant capital that has never been there before, and that really opens up to a completely new opportunities. Yeah, and it also, of course, on the other side, gives everyone in the world the opportunity to invest in such kind of projects, which also hasn't been there before. So that obviously applies to people in the developed world, for example, that want to maybe invest in real good projects in developing countries. But that also applies to people in the developing countries that before maybe couldn't even invest in the local projects because there's these centralized institutions that they're just not part of, right? So it really creates, it's really the framework to power a lot of these social and environmental changes that we need, and we need capital to do that. And this is really the way that we can really finance it. And one example is, as I already said, Wire Collective, our startup. And yeah, we finance manufacturing infrastructure in Africa. And this really enables us to build a whole new economy. I'll talk a little bit more about that after this. And then another example is Empower, who finance housing in Africa. Yeah, so this is like my introduction to the topic. I can start right away with introducing Wire Collective if you want, or we can just have maybe a small round. You can also share what means financing environmental impact and social impact through blockchain for you. Is there something that you want to add, maybe a perspective?
How do we, so you mentioned at the beginning, this was supposed to be kind of social impact, and then it got rephrased to environmental impact. Then we kind of also touched on that kind of one and the same. For people that are building projects in this space, how do we approach that? How do you think about that balance between, I don't know, eco impact, social impact?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is off topic. That's just something that I had in my mind because it's an interesting idea, because all these things are quite interconnected. And I know there's a big movement recently around intersectionality and how that's essentially in my mind, just, everything is connected. So it's, probably off topic. It's 1 a.m. here everywhere. So I'm probably half the stuff that will come out of my mouth is probably just a ramble. No, doesn't make any sense. So ignore me if I don't make any sense.
No, I think it really makes sense. I think it's like, it really is interconnected, but I feel like every project also has to kind of work for it to actually kind of incorporate both, because it's really hard to incorporate both. But on the other hand, sometimes if you do it maybe right, one can also support the other. Yeah, Dan.
Hi guys. For me, social impact, or actually like social impact financing, is also about how can we save the cultural spaces that are dying right now around us, especially in Berlin or in the cities where you have a lot of gentrification, and all these spaces that we used to be very that we take for granted, they're now completely vanishing. And so a lot of the social impact financing for me, or the work that I do here in Berlin, revolves around how can we establish self-sustaining or self-governing communities that hold these properties and maintain them, manage them, and rent them out to organizers or projects. From my end.
So it encompasses a lot from gentrification and kind of cities to, having a roof over their head in some country that doesn't have it. Kind of
exactly.
A broad range of different
marginalization of communities in other European countries, the queer communities in some European countries are heavily being marginalized or threatened, chased out of their country without many documents even. And yeah, this is where social impact financing can really affect change.
And how would you, what would be like a potential solution that you see how you can incorporate crypto and Cardano?
Well, definitely in regards to voting and governance. I'm currently doing a concept for a token curated registry for voting on artworks, or like within a cooperative, within an art cooperative. Then obviously payments, financing through stake pool operation. What else? And obviously, yeah, the crowdsourcing elements, especially combined with non-fungible tokens that have some kind of creative work attached to it. Yeah, those are all possible solutions that can and should be looked at from very different angles. I'm going to turn off my video because I'm still with the little one for some time, but I'm really listening in. So yeah, keep the good stuff coming.
No problem. Cool.
Yeah. I think a lot of these problems that we have, at least a lot of the problems that I see are infrastructural problems, are like foundational problems that we have in the world. And you know, if you have an issue with the foundation, then everything else that builds on top of it's compromised. And so with the way that I think about blockchain is it's like a alternative infrastructure. So whether that infrastructure is financial or governance or whatever it is. So for like Empower, for example, one of the infrastructural issues is around financing. There's a lot of issues around people's ability to get capital or get funding in order to build an affordable home. So that's an infrastructure issue. And so if you can tap into blockchain and leverage decentralized finance, then you're kind of bypassing all the compromised financial infrastructure that's in place at the moment, completely bypassing that and tapping into blockchain. And that's kind of the exciting part, because you're not building a solution on top of a compromised foundation. You're creating a completely new foundation and then building on top of a foundation that is granite, as opposed to a foundation which is cracked concrete or the sand dune, for example.
Yeah.
That's what excites me the most, is we're completely building a new world from scratch.
Interesting.
Which
That's
is
really
kind of what
cool.
we need.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually, that's really also kind of our sentiment, I would say, and then our goal at Wire. If you want, because that was initially how this room is supposed to be structured. We were also supposed to present our project. So I would present my Wire Collective for around 5 minutes and then talk about that. And also Blaine, as I said, can also again present Empower for a little bit longer. I'm just going to share my screen, because what you just talked about is really a lot of what we're trying to do. And a very interesting part is that we actually think that doing it in a developing country or doing it in an African country is actually the ideal place to start, because there the structures are already malfunctioning, and they're not as they're not these large institutions that have been running up for decades and centuries, basically. But you really have still the opportunity to build these way more efficient systems and way better systems, which can then eventually maybe even go global and in the rest of the world, and actually replace these very old, more inefficient systems. So that's why we already say, yeah, we're creating a new economy on Cardano. And the problem that we saw is that basically in Africa, the whole economy of goods is not working very well. One example is the fashion market. So the fashion market in Africa has most of it imported. It's either secondhand or it's very generic. It's relatively expensive, and it leaves a huge market gap. So there's a large number of young and exposed and educated Africans that are really not served by this market, and nobody's serving it right. And on the other hand, a lot of these people also don't have jobs. So you have an economy where you don't have jobs, you have almost no manufacturing, and you also have no great goods that that really target the market. And what we think is that local production for the local demand is actually the ideal solution for that. And because of quite many issues in our current global economy, we think that it's also the better system for the entire world. But it really makes sense to start in Africa because you have the labor, and you have the people that really still demand and really demand products that they're just not getting yet. And yeah, we think that local production for the local market is economically better because you can reduce supply chain costs, for example. It is socially way better because you have, first of all, you create local jobs in the case of Africa and local businesses, but you also don't have this imbalance between rich developed countries, which basically can exploit these other not so developed countries. And then obviously it's a huge sustainability advantage. I think we just talked about like a statistic that 17% of all global carbon emissions come from shipping, which is crazy. Yeah, it's really crazy. And this is all the stuff which can really be reduced. Yeah, how do we do this? So our model is really based around building factories. So these are pre-financed production facilities. We call them collectives, and they are financed by our token basically, and built according to our standards. And we're basically building a whole economy because there's the factories, but there's also brands that function as a common good, so everyone can use the designs and the marketing of these brands. And then we also have the shops that these factories can then sell to. And we basically give them the funding, the marketing, so what to produce and how to produce it with the standards. Yeah, and we really, so it's kind of a mix between a platform or a network and a franchise model. But just that all of these factories and the stores, they're locally owned, and they also they have a stake in the whole DAO, and can actually contribute to decision making. So it's not just one person that makes a brand and then everyone has to follow. Everyone can kind of contribute to everything. And this is just a little bit of what we've done. So we've really tested out what's possible. This is the first collection we've made fully in Uganda. So the fabric and also the production, all of this has been made in Uganda by us. And yeah, this is really the financing part. So people can buy and stake Wire coins and therefore invest in the Wire economy. So in these real factories, which then, get built, they produce, they sell, and yeah, you can invest in it, and that will definitely, then give you a return for your investment that you staked. And yeah, of course, the Wire DAO basically makes money by a facilitation fee, and then also by small fee or percentage of the product, which then goes to the DAO. We have a governance token and a payment coin. So the governance token is for the governance, and really it's kind of the represents the value of the system. And then the payment coin is supposed to be used for all kinds of transactions that are being made in the network. So for example, when a factory sells something to a store, that will happen in the Wire coin. Yeah, this, I think I won't talk much about this, but we really kind of tested out the model and really went really deep into the current market. Right now, we just received the Fund 6 funding, and now we're building really the first ecosystem in Uganda, so the first factory, the first brand, and the first store to really test out and build these standards. And at the same time, we're working on building our community. We're going to do an ICO, working on some NFTs. So there's a lot going to happen over the course of the next couple of months. Yeah, this is our team, just a couple of them. There's a couple of more, but you can also see that on the website. And yeah, at the end, we really want, I mean, this is a communal effort, I would say. It's going to be a DAO, so we really want everyone to be a part of it. We want to build a new economy, and we don't want to do it alone. We don't intend to have power over this. So we really want everyone to join and contribute. And therefore, if you're interested, you can join us on Telegram or Twitter. We also have what's the other thing? Discord. So that's basically what we do. Really taps into what Blaine just said about building new structures.
That was inspiring. I love presentations like that. Even though it's late here, it makes me want to get working again. That's probably not the smartest thing to do, but
thank you.
I love that.
Any comments, questions, or any other topics?
What are some of the learnings so far in I guess this journey that you've been on so far?
Yeah. A lot, yeah. We've really gone for a very hands-on approach, I would say. We really wanted to find out what is there. Interesting. What is really there? Initially, we really wanted to work with these producers that are already there. So the fashion economy, or the fashion industry, how it's now built is like there's millions of tiny like tailor shops. And initially we thought, oh, this is so great. You know, they already have machines, kind of like an Uber for tailor shops, and why don't we organize them all in a very efficient, great way with the blockchain and supply chain tracking and all of that. We realized that it doesn't make sense at all, unfortunately. So small, I mean, you need some economies of scale. I mean, we really tried working with them. We did work with them, but we eventually had to like realize that they're not reliable and efficient as a factory, basically. And now we really understood that what's really missing is the financing and the structures to build real factories that are really competitive with the rest of the world. And we also, I would say we made the same mistake as maybe many. We thought, okay, the local market, you know, it doesn't have enough purchasing power, it doesn't make sense. And we initially wanted to export, and then also realized that if we export, we kind of tap into the same exploited and systems that are kind of there. So for example, that would mean, you know, you have to produce very fast, you have to then produce always on time, and if you don't produce on time, which is quite hard with the logistics in connecting Africa and Europe, you basically have to exploit your workers because you can't pay them as much anymore. So that really made it difficult, and we then realized that, wow, there's actually this huge local market that is actually not being served and that is underestimated by most. So these are some of the learnings, I would say. Then I think we also kind of yeah. I think in the beginning we underestimated actually the financing part, how important that is, and how what of an opportunity that actually is. And that is actually a core piece of the whole thing, because the financing is the core of, or the start of all of this. And it's something that is missing in such a major way.
I just wanted to comment that what you're doing, the work you're doing, is absolutely brilliant and superb, and so necessary in terms of creating a new, well, you called it the new economy or the way economy, but creating a new economy which operates independently of our current financial system, which never worked in your parts of the world. I mean, I'm based in Europe, so never worked in other than in an exploitative manner in the first place, but is broken here too. Even the whole system is fundamentally broken and is not going anywhere, and yet it's rock solid when you try to say it. It feels like a rock when you try to change it. So in a sense, it's not completely broken yet in that sense, but broken in terms of what it achieves. And it was Buckminster Fuller, he said there's no point in trying to change a system. All you can do is build a new system which will eventually make the old system obsolete. And I think this is really what you're building on, the new system that will eventually make the old one obsolete. So, and in the context of both financing and the work you're doing, but also in the context of, and for me, what was important and why I'm here actually, because I'm not part of the, well, I am an ADA holder, but I'm not either IT or anything related. But what's important for me is that it's not is that it also does it all in a sustainable way, and so the sustainability piece is also a key thing, and of course everything that you've described here is all about that, reducing the carbon footprint from transportation and localizing, bringing the economy back to the people, the decision making, everything. I mean, it's just. I just praise you for I'm just inspired by what you're doing. So that's a comment, not a question, but
thank you so much. Very feel honored. Yeah, and I think it's actually like what I really love about it is that like you said, we're building a new system, and I'm really passionate about actually Africa, the Africa part in it, because it makes me so mad how the rest of the world undermines it, and it's like it doesn't even see it as like yeah, sometimes just as like really a lesser part of the world, which makes me so mad, because when I first came here, I just realized that it's all not true. There's so much potential here, and there's nothing really different except of the systems that have unfortunately developed or not been developed, or have been developed in a wrong way. But it really leaves this thing of building something new here, which is actually better than the rest of the world, which also is very passionate for me.
Funny thing is that all our ancestors are from Africa, and yeah, so it's quite ridiculous to see the lesser part.
True. Absolutely, yeah.
If you ever want to set up a stake pool, I can highly recommend the Spokra guys. You probably saw one of the town halls. They are fantastic, especially Loris. He helped us a lot with setting up ours. Super easy, take a minimum fee, And if you combine your stake pool with a nice incentive, could be, I'm always thinking about NFT drops. I don't know, maybe you have a 3D metaverse clothing line coming up, so you can drop this to holders, or you can have it more focused and say, hey, you will receive dividend or governance tokens or something like this to make it more appealing for people to stake in your pool. But I think that this is actually like the future of self-organizing communities, to have a stake pool that is allocated to a purpose, and that people who stake to the stake pool forward this purpose and get incentivized with something meaningful that is coming out of the production or the execution of this purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. We're also planning an ISPO, so we're going to be giving out our tokens for the rewards, and we're also planning an NFT collection, but that is still a little bit of a secret. What exactly is going to be.
Dan, can you please write the name of the company in the chat? I don't know.
Which one?
The one you recommended for setting up the stake pool.
Yeah, sorry, it's the SPOCRATS, the Stake Pool Operators something Association.
Okay.
You can reach them on the Discord, or you can contact Loris directly. I think he is one of the most active guys, and he also helped us set it up. I think he's holding one of the Catalyst Circle positions as well, so very deeply rooted in the Catalyst community, and basically they're helping everyone to really easily set up their stake pool. And then it's up to you to just get some delegators, and all the technical stuff they will take care of.
Mm-hmm.
One of the exciting things about what you guys are doing at Wire Collective, at least in my mind, is this is a blockchain project which is, I guess, in the blockchain world, but then also interacting with the real world as well. Like, it's kind of the intersection of the two, which is, you know, when you look at all the different, I guess, crypto protocols out there, DeFi protocols, a lot of them are just purely digital and all online, which is cool. But I guess this is where the real fire part comes in, is when you kind of combine blockchain and then apply it in a real world, tangible, physical scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And just because that's kind of a new thing, it's kind of exciting to see how that evolves and what exciting opportunities kind of present themselves that maybe we don't anticipate. I don't know, that's quite an exciting idea to me, just seeing how that plays out.
Mm-hmm.
Combining those two worlds.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's kind of also interesting is, like, I think what people think of when they think industry solution, blockchain industry solution, it's always these, I mean, corporates that try to have like decentralized ledger or something like that, where you're like, okay, is this really a decentralized blockchain solution? Like, is that really the core of and the benefit of a blockchain, that it creates a better system? And what we're really trying to do, and what we realize, is that you have to kind of build it up from the ground. But we kind of combine this cryptocurrency and then also the industry, but not in a way that, okay, we're trying to like optimize the existing one, but that we're actually building a new one, which is at its core with the decentralized power. And I think, I mean, like, cryptocurrency is such an amazing first application of blockchain. But I mean, I feel like this, I mean, the technology has just kind of been introduced, if you kind of look at it in that way. And there's just so much, I mean, there's so much that can be created on top of it, and so many more systems that can be created that we can't even imagine now. But yeah, I think that's also really exciting to know that this might be really the beginning something that is going to be completely change how the world kind of works. So maybe a question to you, something that would actually be interesting and helpful for us, would be like, because we're really trying to build a community that can really contribute, and then obviously also stake with us, and that really becomes part of Wire. And of course we're doing Telegram and Twitter and all of that. And yeah, it's kind of been something we have maybe not been doing early enough, but we're really trying to focus on that now. So from your opinion, or just you as like someone who's now outside but maybe interested, what are you actually interested in participating in, and what would make you want to like follow us and then interact with us, and what are these things that would actually be interesting for you?
I don't know, for me, it would be interesting to see if like how I can actually effect change through the system. Can I federate it? Can I apply it here in Germany? What does it help, or how can I like, because I don't know about Uganda. I sadly never been to Africa. I would not be able to make any like valuable decisions. That's what I think in regards to governance, so something like this. So maybe explain to people what kind of knowledge or what kind of skills can be used in governing this, especially if you're not a local.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, and I think the community, because this is like an impactful kind of thing as well, how the community can get that sense of similar to what Dan was saying before, but getting that sense of connection with being part of the community, wherever they are in the world. How can they feel like what they're doing, what kind of impact that is having, just getting that kind of sense of connection to what's actually happening on the ground, I think is kind of important.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people in Cardano that are interested in these sorts of projects. So that's one cool thing about Cardano, I think, is they have they're not just when Lambo, when Moon type people. They're like when change, when impact kind of thing as well, which is like pretty cool. So they thrive off knowing what they're doing is actually how that's actually making an impact and how that is quantified and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe something entering program, so that people that want to create or found ventures can connect to people like us who maybe already did some startup or have some experience in that kind of sense, and just share some knowledge. And I think this maybe could be helpful, and also have people outside of the localities feel like they can actually participate.
Mm-hmm. And like in terms of Also kind of financially investing or being like, okay, I want to now stake there. I'm interested in the token itself. What is like something that makes you be like, I'm interested in this token? Is it more like, okay, I think it's going to have it's going to be very grow in value, or I want to like contribute financing the system? What is like the thing that excites you the most?
Yeah, I think there's got to be like, you know, different drivers for different people. You know, some that are purely there for the financial return, some there that are for just the impact, some a combination of, you know, all of those different things. I think with the coins, like fair distribution, fair, at least like as a general sentiment in the community, or like around like new coins and coin launches and all that kind of stuff, is around, I think people appreciate when there's been thought into how we do that in like a fair way, whatever that means. I mean, there's no perfect kind of scenario, but like just fairness around that tokenomics and distribution, I think, is important.
Yeah, great input.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, another thing that would excite me is the insights on tokenomics. So maybe that if token holders can get insight like special on-chain data like Glassnode, but for the financing of your project, that would be nice, because yeah, I mean, this data should be public, but you can make it so that it's only public to the people actually in your community. But yeah, I don't know, maybe that's not such a good idea, but definitely would be interesting to see this data. And also, if I could vote on, like, for example, if I would be an expert on tokenomics, and there would be an incentive for me to share my knowledge, basically by holding governance tokens and then participating in prediction markets maybe. And through these prediction markets, I could leverage my knowledge and actually make an additional profit on the token, because I have an incentive to do so, because I want the token to grow, because I'm holding some. So this could be like a feedback game that you could play.
So like the combination of you having stake and then you also being able to contribute in the right way.
Yeah, that's why we want to build meritocratic systems, because we believe this is the way forward, to give people the voting power that are actually or that have the motivation and the value aligned with the purpose.
So I didn't get it. I think on what part of the tokenomics are you able to vote on, or in that suggestion?
Do you know about prediction markets? It's a bit like gambling, but on voting. So, for example, I can open a market that says the tokenomics settings right now are so bad that the price of Wire will go down by 5% until in 3 months. And I will put a lot of my WADA coins on there, because I'm really sure about this and I want to do something about it. Yeah? And then other people can come and say, hey, no, I don't think it's like this. And they can vote against us with their tokens. And in the end, the decision that has the most weight behind it gets picked, and the tokens that have been staked against the other side are being given to the winner. That's basically a prediction market, and you can use this to create a gamification of how to make the tokenomics better in your system.
Wasn't there a prediction market that someone placed where Cardano wouldn't have smart contracts by that date?
Yeah, I think that was Polymarket.
Yeah. Is that what you refer? Is that a prediction market?
That's also a prediction market. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I get what you're saying.
Interesting.
That sounds mean.
Well, it's not mean. It's just put your money where your mouth is, because if there's nothing to lose, nothing at stake, then you can say anything, and that may have not aligned with what you actually mean, you know.
So it's like shorting, but
no, I mean, you can also say the parameters are that good that it's going up in 3 months, and we should not change it. You can also do a positive prediction market. I mean, this is totally up to you.
Okay, but you need like a counterparty that thinks differently.
Yes, otherwise you will not make money from the market, and you just lose money for putting up the market, and like there's some fee to it. So it wouldn't make sense to put up markets that have no counterparty, because you end up losing money. The tokens. And another thing that you might need to be aware of, but I don't know, because you're probably not really, the company is not in Germany, but about the stake pool, be sure that the stake pool is held by a foundation, so that you don't have to pay this high amount of taxes on the rewards. This is very, very, very important.
Yeah, the taxes topic is frightening.
Yeah, I mean, in Germany, they're really slow, so it will take a bit of time, but make sure that you somehow, especially if you're just setting up the stake pool, that you create a foundation that the stake pool is registered under.
Yes.
So also like a foundation in Germany or anywhere?
Not in Germany. Then.
Not in Germany.
I think it depends on where the rest of your legal entities are, but you could also do it in Germany.
Okay, you mean that you shouldn't own it personally?
Yeah, exactly. Or you shouldn't own it with a GmbH or something like that.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Because then you have to pay income tax on every reward, which sucks.
That would be difficult.
That's true. But then does it make sense to like start a foundation just for that? Or, I mean, in the end, you probably need some kind of a foundation just for the DAO itself. But I mean, if we're not there yet, that we really go through that whole kind of legal stuff of really setting up a DAO and all of that stuff. I mean, does like any foundation just for that purpose also, would that make sense?
I don't think it's that difficult to set up a foundation. You can also use template charters and then change it afterwards. I mean, definitely get professional advice on this. I'm also just learning as I go. But it's definitely the safe way. It would take you 1-2 days of research. It will cost you a couple of €100, but then you're on the safe side.
Yeah, especially if it basically isn't income, so you want to reinvest it into the collective, so it wouldn't make sense any other way.
It's an investment. Yeah. Exactly.
And then next level is a purpose company with a steward ownership assets. This is the really this is the setup currently to circumvent that you cannot have a company that is actually earning profit for the purpose. Right now, we only have company structures that earn profit for stakeholders, and these stakeholders have the shares bundled, so the dividend shares and the voting shares are together. And yeah, this makes it tough for a company to stay true to its purpose, because these shares can be sold on the secondary markets. You don't have any influence over who gets the voting power. They can be bought off by other companies and stuff like this. So the purpose company model is looking to mitigate this by splitting up the shares. So you have 3 types of shares: voting shares, dividend shares, and veto shares. The dividend shares are held by a charity organization or a foundation, like maybe the Staple Foundation that you're going to use. The voting shares are only held by the people who are actually working in the company and contributing to it. And the veto shares are held by an organization that sole purpose is to have oversight over the votings of other purpose company and give a veto if a voting will not align with the purpose. So you can look into it. Zeiss and Bosch are 2 quite big German companies that started transitioning into these purpose company structures. And yeah, especially for a cooperative like this, and if you want to go the DAO, then you should look into it as well.
What was the first type of share?
Veto of voting and dividend.
Okay. Yeah.
So the dividend shares, you get all the profit, and this has to be in a charity organization that then redistributes the profit into furthering the purpose. And that way you don't have any investors coming in buying shares because they want to make money. You can only get voting shares if you actually participate in the company. This will make it tough to get VC money, obviously.
Yes.
But this is perfect for self-financing organizations with stake pools and independent financing sources. But then again, VCs are also turning a page. This social impact investing is very big, becoming very big. So might be that you can also get people involved, VCs involved that do this kind of thing. You will have it easier in the future, I think, because this will become very common, especially with the NFT space and the NFTs becoming like status symbols. So you will see a lot of VCs going in just to get some kind of status symbol that they can then show off that they spend this much money, or just to give it, you know.
Yeah. But does that only apply to like NFT projects, or also if we just launch some NFTs?
I mean, it depends on what the NFT symbolizes for the person buying it and for the person seeing it. So it depends on how you communicate and market the NFT.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Dan, how is your project called?
So Secret Decks is one. It's my baby.
Okay.
And then I have the Disco of Urgency was the working title. They changed it to Envisioning Free Spaces. It's another project I'm supporting and I'm helping with. And we actually have a conference coming up this weekend in Berlin, if any of you are in Berlin by any chance. Will probably be the last event that will be allowed to host 2G+. So
I think you were in contact with Simon about the event.
like many people from the Swarm wanted to drop by,
Okay.
they wanted to come. I don't know if Simon also, but that would be cool. Yeah, I think he was up for it, but I actually don't have his contact, so maybe you can send me also his contact and I will tell him again, because he's right around the corner, I think.
Yes. You can send me where you want to be contacted, so I don't know which one he prefers.
Yeah, you can hit me up on Twitter. Wait, I post my Twitter.
All right.
My Telegram. It's actually the same, I think, but yeah.
Okay. And Secret Dex is a Dex?
No, it's actually Taro project. So we are trying to elevate Taro into hyperspace. And I have a whole app ecosystem mapped out. But the first thing we're going to do is an NFT launchpad for Taro artists. So right now we are working together with 2 Italian artists that created original decks some 15 years ago, and we're digitizing them with them and animating, and we're going to drop it. And then I'm also reaching out to other artists to create new decks with concepts that I did. And the mission of it is to basically offer tools for everyone for self-knowledge, to communicate with your subconscious better. And yeah, that's my main objective. And while we're doing it, we're creating tools for DAOs and basically discos better. I always, when I speak of a DAO, I envision a disco, because I'm not that technical a person and I don't believe that DAOs should be fully automated. I do get why we also should experiment with this, but for now, I think this automation should happen only when necessary, and the human should be in the focus. That's why I'm also excited for the conference, because the Disco guys, the distributed cooperative people that wrote this huge manifesto that I modeled Secret Dex after, they're going to also be there, and they have a panel. It's called From Cyber to Solar Punk or something like this. And the guys that founded it, 2 of them will be there, and it's going to be just amazing to talk to them. And yeah, so exciting times. I actually, I will post a link from the Twitter that I created for the guys. Would appreciate a follow, because there's not yet much going on.
Yeah, we follow it.
Nice. And yeah, we're starting this. I'm starting my first NFT sale tonight of an NFT ticket for the conference.
Nice.
I helped them set it up with NFT Maker Pro, and let's see how it goes. First one. Very excited. Yeah, that's me.
Envisioning free space.
Yeah. So the actual name is Freiträume Conference. The T in brackets, so it's like Freiräume and Träume. But they had to, they internationalized it this year because it's also online, and they came up with Envisioning Free Space. It's about reclaiming cultural spaces. They are working together with the Club Foundation and the Tresor Foundation to come up with these mechanisms that I was talking in the beginning about, to organize a community, to self-organize the community to manage these properties that could be reinstigated or rebought because now how it was going over the last decades is that people were renting from the city, the locations, or from private people. And since the prices went up insanely over the last years, the only solution now is to buy it. But you don't have one person that has that much money to buy it. So they need to come up with an idea for a collective to collectively buy this property, manage it, and decide what kind of artists or people can rent the spaces for 5 years, 2 years, 10 years, and do their event, club, gallery, or whatever there. And so this is the Envisioning Free Space is on the weekend after the Stadt nach 8 conference, the City After 8, which is a conference for nighttime economy people that also are connected with politics. A lot of administrative folks, like the workings of how you run the nighttime economy and how you connect with the people that create the laws, how you can work together. And then on the weekend, you have the Envisioning Free Space, which is more around the club culture, the social impact culture, the marginalized and queer communities. And that's basically it.
I want to move to Berlin.
Yeah, it changed a lot. It changed a lot. This spirit is still there, but it has been like fought against and trying to being eradicated a lot. You see a lot of cultural spaces dying in Berlin the last years. It's crazy. It's like biodiversity dying. It's the same in the city with the cultural spaces. It's really sad. But so even more important to focus our attention on saving them.
Yes. Blaine, do you have that in Australia too, that the cultural spaces are dying? And
I think so. I mean, the city that I'm in is pretty kind of chilled out. It's probably not really a city, it's like a big town. So it's kind of pretty chilled out. But like in let's say Melbourne, some of the other cities in Australia, I think perhaps they are dealing with that, but probably not to the degree that you're talking about, Dan. Probably not to that degree, but something that's an issue nonetheless. I mean, you made the comparison to biodiversity. They're both issues that need to be addressed.
Especially because I think the social places in Berlin are so unique and vibrant and amazing. But of course, it's because it's like the capital city and so much change. It's really dying probably.
Yeah, so maybe we do need Wire Collective in the cities for the local production. Maybe that's not such a bad idea,
Yeah, it won't save culture, maybe, but not directly.
Wouldn't be so sure.
Culture of yes. So I don't know, Blaine, if you want to present Empower. I don't know if everybody's just.
I'm happy to just kind of have a conversation. To be honest.
Oh yeah, it's okay. I just thought because we said so. I'd give you the chance. But I think most of us know what you're doing.
Yeah, well,
I don't.
In line with what you guys, doing, kind of a real fire type project. That culture thing's got me thinking because it's, like diverse. I'm quite big on diversity as a general thing, is kind of like a pretty important thing in general. So keeping diversity within the culture, you know, you keeping diverse ideas, diversity in the natural world, super important. It helps with you know, a balanced ecosystem. It just seems like we're trying to sterilize everything at the moment, in every like, whether it's in, you know, the cities in Berlin or in the natural world. It's just, why are we sterilizing everything?
Mm-hmm.
Gross.
Good question. Fear, probably. Fear of terms.
Yeah. Incentives. I think the incentives are wrong at the moment.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
also capitalism. I mean, if, for example, H&M is the most optimized store, then it's optimized in every country in the world. So every city will look eventually the same, because every store that's the strongest store will survive in all of the countries in the world. So
that monopoly kind of. Yeah. So capitalism is interesting because there's a lot of people in like the environmental space that are anti-capitalism, but I think I'm okay with capitalism at its core. I think we're kind of just doing it badly, and you know,
yeah, I mean, we don't have the most important stakeholder integrated into capitalism. If everyone would want to please the main stakeholder, but the ecological balance, the planetary, then we would have a whole different capitalistic system. You know, it's, I mean, it's not just that. Yeah, as you said, the incentives and the stakeholders are a bit off.
Yeah, a bit off. Like that's where you have like the triple bottom line kind of idea: people, planet, profit. Like there is a model where all of those can, you know, benefiting in all of those three categories is possible. It's just kind of not what we're currently doing, but it is possible. So yeah, the incentives are wrong, but like there still needs to be, yeah, I don't know. There needs to be an incentive for some company to, you know, prioritize maybe people and planet. In order for them to do that, we can't just, you know, expect them to change just because. But I mean, if we design new systems and the rules of the game are changed, then maybe that will help with that. Yeah, with profit. Yeah,
we had also this week a discussion on that it shouldn't, or it should be really, it's incentivizing it, because people, as you said, or companies want to maximize profits, and if you the nice thing about Cardano is that you can incentivize those things, and also take into account the environmental impact, and translate that into revenue. That's kind of exciting thing.
Because we've got the humans, we have to address our selfish gene, which is very much part of all of us, and it's, you know, has had adaptive value. Like it's probably you know, why we're here, so it serves a purpose. But I think when we're trying to change this world to one that is better, the solutions need to address that, or else things won't change. Which isn't a really romantic way to think about it, but I think it's, you know, the truth. Like if you want to get stuff done.
Yes.
Yeah.
You won't change your habits out of altruistic reasons.
Yeah, and we also need scalable solutions. Like we've got ourselves in such a shitty mess at the moment that we need scalable solutions. And one, like NGOs and not-for-profit organizations, they have a role to play, but not-for-profits have a bottleneck for impact, and that is cash flow. So we need you know, for-profit organizations that are trying to make the world a better place, but then they have plenty of cash flow so the impact can scale. And that's why I like a lot of blockchain type projects where they have the social impact, environmental impact flavor, but then they have technology. So when you think of scale, it's all about leverage, and one form of leverage is money, one is technology, and blockchain kind of, you can combine, get leverage through the technology and the money, plus like community and like network effects. So it's like a triple whammy with the social impact flavor, and that's like, that's magic. Right? That gets me going.
Will save us.
Well, hopefully we've got like 3 years ago when I made the pivot from, so 3 years ago I left a good architecture job and was like, I'm gonna make a pivot into conservation, and it was a hard process because I invested all this time and money into getting an expensive piece of paper from uni, and my mum thought I was crazy. But when I made that pivot, I was like, we've got 10 years. Like a lot of the scientists are saying we have 10 years to kind of make a big difference. I don't buy into that complete doomy narrative, but nonetheless, it was a good target. 10 years, gives me something to kind of work towards. But we've got a lot to do, and it's like lucky for us that we have this thing like blockchain, where for the first time ever we have a technology that has the capacity to build these new systems from scratch, and like that excites me so much. And it's so cool seeing people like yourselves building things on it, and other people in the space. It just gets me so inspired. But one problem that I see is a lot of my friends in the environmental space, there's a lot of stigma with blockchain and eco and social impact. So that we need to there's a lot of awareness and education to do in order to convince those people that blockchain is actually a tool for positive change, and it's not just an energy intensive thing like Bitcoin. I'm not a hater on Bitcoin, but a lot of people see these articles saying that it consumes a lot of energy, which it does, and then they automatically apply that to everything that's related to it, which just isn't true. So they need to be convinced somehow, and then bring them onto our side, because we pretty much believe in the same things. We just don't have the same kind of,
or not convinced, but informed. That's
just informed.
That would be enough.
I think it's like so
exactly
hard.
Just informed, that's it.
Because like I think like what's really hard to understand for a lot of people is just that it's so far different from like how our current world works. So that's why I feel like it just has to make this click where they understand it. And I feel like for everyone who's in the space, that moment was there at some point, and they were like, oh, okay. And then then it's like really amazing, and then you kind of can't forget about it. But I think like what you said, there's like what I also find interesting, and maybe you also have the same kind of problem, is that I always say that blockchain in Africa are the most misunderstood things in the world, because the whole continent is so misunderstood, and then also blockchain is so misunderstood, or there's so much stigma around it. And I always find it so interesting if you talk to people who really have, who think of Africa as like all of these cliches, and also think of blockchain of all of these cliches. And there's, I would say, a lot of people that think that way, and that also we've talked to. And then for us, like we tell them about Waya and how we're doing it, and how with tailors and fashion, and then it's like, and then they're like, and then they think of like a charity project, and we're like, and then we bring in this whole blockchain part, and I think then they're just like really confused. So that happens like that happens way too often. I think.
It's because it's kind of so early into this thing, which is exciting from like a, it presents like an exciting opportunity, but at the same time it makes things tricky because it's hard to maybe kind of understand for different people. And one when I try and speak to my environmental friends about blockchain and I'm trying to get them, kind of convert them to this side, one thing I always see in the environmental scene is, when people are marching down the streets with their signs saying we want system change, not climate change. I don't know if you guys have heard that kind of saying, but like it's very common. Like everyone hears it. Everyone preaches system change, not climate change.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, blockchain is the best thing we have for system change. So a lot of these people that kind of say on Instagram, they post a photo, system change, not climate change, and then in the next post they're criticizing blockchain. That's a complete contradiction in my eyes. And I did a webinar a couple of weeks ago related to blockchain and environmental impact, and I brought up that kind of example, and I think a lot of people like clicked with that and was like, I think I get what you mean. So it's those things. It's like they want system change too, but I don't think they realize that this thing is that tool that they're kind of looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Once they make that click, I think then that trend, like I think we've got to get a flood. Once we get a few key influences within that space kind of waving that flag, like, okay, blockchain is a system changing tool, we've got to get this flood of people over. But at the moment, a lot of them aren't waving that flag. So
yeah, I mean that's what we want to do also with Freiträume and the Envisioning Space. We want to bring these activist communities where a lot of people have really strange. They see blockchain in a very strange light, I think, because they don't work in it. They only have the most of the mainstream media content inside their heads and in front of their eyes, and so this is what we want to do. We want to teach them, educate them, show them what can be done, so that they understand what kind of tools actually offered, and also can shift against this corporate or like game A world that still tries to get their hands on the Cardano. Also in the Catalyst, there are some people that they're up to no good. We will always have this, but we need more people on the other side to make this, because most of the time it's not really conscious that they're like not really cooperating, but only seem to cooperate. But that doesn't make it so that it's not true. So, and but I'm digressing. Sorry.
Yeah, maybe the people or the media doesn't, or most people don't see. I mean, the blockchain community is so ironic, so self-ironically. Is the word?
Yeah, what's the word in English?
They have self-irony. That's my point. And I think most of people misunderstand it because they don't take it serious, because so many people are making jokes, and but it can be funny and a system change in the same. So they think because it's not like boring and serious, it's obviously a scam. There's nothing that's cool and funny and a revolution at the same time.
Well, the thing with blockchain is if you think of blockchain as infrastructure, and then once you have, or like if you think of blockchain as like a foundation, then you can build anything on that foundation. So on that foundation, you can build a meme coin, or you can build like a metaverse, or you could build, Wire Collective, or you could build whatever. And so like some people may see a meme that's built on top of the blockchain and only acknowledge the meme without acknowledging the foundation that the meme is built on. Does So I think that can be quite confusing because it's just so big. It's such a massive thing that we're talking about that it's hard to like wrap your head around, I think. And I think a lot of people, when they think of blockchain, they might think of it like a website or just something tiny like that. Oh, blockchain, that website, I've seen that website somewhere, or I saw that app somewhere. But it's like, it's just so much bigger than that. Like I get why it's so hard to understand. I still don't understand it.
Yes.
I've been trying to learn this, for so long, and I'm slowly getting better and better at like describing it to my friends and my family in a way that isn't just ridiculously confusing. I still haven't been able to describe it to my mum in a way that she just doesn't, she still looks at me weird every single time. So I haven't got that one down pat yet. But the point is, like, people aren't supposed to understand it completely because it's such a big idea. But that also presents challenges. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because it's like
I find it exciting.
Yeah, because you have this kind of thing of this very short-term thing, what it kind of is for a lot of people, of them just seeing it maybe as like an asset class, or I just invest my money in it and then maybe I get a return, that's it. And then there's this huge long-term thing, and thinking that long-term is just a bit hard. I mean, it's just maybe not so intuitive for most people, especially if you have this. I mean, if it's understandable that it's a bit confusing if you say, okay, blockchain is supposed to be like inclusive and fair, and not fair, but like going to create these new, better structures, and then you have just people that get extremely rich by just kind of having invested in Bitcoin early. So that can seem like kind of a contradiction. So there's a couple of things why it's like really hard to understand and grasp for the majority at this point.
I mean, it's also a huge step because it's actually, it's without the whole concept of states and government and law, and it all leaves these structures that we have. So, I mean, I see why people are suspicious when most of the friends I tell about this is they think that actually more states, more control should be there, and not no state control. So I think it's also really a conflict of these worldviews.
Yeah, but I think that's also the misunderstanding, because I had a conversation with someone here in Uganda who was like, yeah, it's going to destabilize our currency and our economy and our government. And I mean, whoever knows the government of Uganda knows that the government is not perfect, and definitely not. I would say the main interest is not maybe the well-being of the people. So it is, I think the world here in Uganda would be so much better, and the people would have so much power if there would be blockchain and as the system, as the ruling system in a way. But he was like, no, it can't be, and like, he just didn't understand. So that's something. And then also one other example which I found really funny, and I talked to my dad, and he invested in some cryptocurrencies, but then he was still like skeptical, and he was like, yeah, then you don't have like a trustworthy institution
I was like, that is the point. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see, what the world looks like in 10 years time. I like to think I'm optimistic, so I'm hopeful.
I think it's just the better system in a way, and potentially the more efficient system, and I think therefore it would dominate at some point.
I think blockchain has when we're thinking about different foundations and structures, that can lead to if we consider this just one massive game that we're all playing, and there's games within games. Ideally, the game isn't set up fairly for all participants or players in the game, which isn't a kind of a cool thing. Like, I've played kind of competitive sport growing up, and that was kind of a big thing, is you want to play a fair game. Even if you're playing high level, you don't want to play a team if they have 3 missing players or something. You just don't, it's just not how you want to play a game. So you want systems that can create a fairer playing field, and blockchain, I think, has the ability to do that. So I think once we're playing a game that is fair, I think that's naturally got to lead to a lot of positive outcomes for kind of everyone, because there will be less, I guess, kind of negative competition between each other, because we don't have to fight between each other as much, just because things are just leveled out a bit. So you're going to have all these secondary effects that are positive, just because the game's set up fairly from the get-go, or fairer than it is now. I mean, it's never got to be completely fair, but too many moving parts, I think, for that to literally be true, but we can make it a lot better than it currently is. Yeah. I want to go to Uganda next year too. I want to see the mountain gorillas.
Oh, awesome. Sure, definitely need to.
Just a little side note.
Hey, Jacob.
Hello, hello. What's going on in this room?
Oh.
Just chatting.
Nothing about how blockchain is going to dominate the world.
Yes.
Some change.
Yeah.
Kind of conversation. Yes.
Yeah, that's
Did
great.
you learn something today?
Yes.
Did you get some new insights?
Think so? No, absolutely.
Yes, I can answer that question with a yes.
Yeah.
Yes as well.
I didn't know that so many projects were SDG related. I mean, that's kind of crazy, actually, if you think about it. And if you think about the larger scale of what that means, if it's just the beginning for the direction of Catalyst, and in comparison to what the nation states are doing, regarding SDGs.
Yeah.
How did they measure it? I didn't hear that.
I think that's my opinion, right? I mean, in social science, you would basically come up with some definitions and criteria that you kind of do in this kind of format, categorization, and then you just make a check mark, right, in which category it falls. And I guess that they had some brief definitions and went over the proposals, and if they saw something where it was really written down kind of SDG or something like that, that it was then directly SDG related. If they said okay, we're helping, I don't know, some people on the street here and there, then it's okay, this could fit into poverty, right, of SDG, so reducing that. That's what I would assume how they went through it. And to make it more reliable, of course, it would be important to have all these categories, to validate them, and then to see if there's some basically reliability between the observers, so that that all the people kind of have some congruency between the observations. But I doubt that they did that. I mean, it's just some nice brief number, and yeah.
But it's cool that, you know, people are starting to make these connections, because, you know, these are important goals. So if we can link them with Project Catalyst, then that's also good with, you know, communicating with people outside of the space and bringing them in. And then, like, as an extension moving forward, these catalysts linked to kind of KPIs, then you can track, you know, what KPIs have been met, and then you can link, you know, the funding to, you know, actual, you know, how well this thing has performed, and then you can be like, okay, X amount of dollars has actually produced this real world outcome, which would, you know, again, would be kind of cool, just quantifying all of that in the future.
Absolutely, and the tool that was displayed, I think, is beautiful, right? If that will be used, and then you can start to really cluster which SDGs are going to be fulfilled by how many proposals, and it's really transparent then at the end of the day, that you can see, okay, we got a bias towards these and these SDGs, and then start some discussions about the allocations of funds and what future directions could look like, etc. And just start conversations that are not really happening so far, at least not on my plate.
Yes, that would be interesting.
Because the one interesting thing that I read a couple of weeks ago was identity, and how identity links with financial inclusion, how that linked with, I think, 8 out of the 17 SDGs directly, and then yeah, so like even through DeFi and providing those services, how much of a difference that makes in terms of, like, you know, you're addressing all these goals simultaneously just through providing you know, providing DeFi just in and of itself. Yeah, slight tangent, not really, kind of. Yeah.
See that, because like financing is like the basis of everything. If you have that, people can just build on top of it. But if they don't have power.
And then, like, the identity is often like a precursor to, you know, access to like financial services. So, well, I don't know what the stat is, but like more than 1 billion people don't have formal ID, and because of that, they can't access financial, like a bank or healthcare or other vital services. It's a decent chunk of the population.
I think this whole DeFi space will become so huge. It will be really cool. And I mean, I really like your project, Antonia and Caroline. I think it's really, really cool. And then maybe to see on some DeFi platforms, project like yours that you can basically invest in. And then you see, okay, why, and, you know, allocate this and this percentage of my fund basically to that, get some return. That would be so awesome. And then you can see, okay, and this now relates to SDGs like this. And then, okay, how much part of my portfolio covers which SDGs? And then you can have basically maybe a return or donate, or like, I mean, at least let your capital work in a sustainable way. So that would be freaking awesome. I mean, this is quite down the road, but I think that's the direction where it's heading.
Like ESG, but better.
Definitely better.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at least that's what I heard. I didn't study too much the ESGs, but it's profits a lot of big corporations, which can easily more check mark some bureaucratic stuff as well. And some people on the ground, it's similar to the bio, or I mean organic labels sometimes, right? Some people just do it, but it's very hard to actually, because it's so costly to get the certificates, etc., that it's not really helping a lot of people. But yeah.
Does the E stand for European?
What?
Environment. Okay, so is the
Environmental social governance.
Yes, if it's
So
in Australia or if it's European. Okay.
yeah. And I mean, there are some rankings which companies are like on highest, have the best ESG ratings, and I think
It's
one of the
Nestle.
best is no, I think it's Nvidia actually. And if you think about what Nvidia does, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. This is just on the back of my head, but I mean, they are creating all of these CPUs, etc., no, GPUs, and I don't know if that's really the way for sustainability to go forward, to reward companies like Nvidia to have the highest ESG ratings. And you think, okay, I don't know. Yeah. Also, Tesla's, I think, pretty high when it comes to ESG ratings. And when you think what they do is like, they need all these materials for creating batteries, etc., and creating these metal things that move you around, right? Where you think, okay, is this the most efficient way to do transport, and is really helping the environment? I mean, you can debate it, right?
Yes. Also, I mean, I don't want to invest only in software companies because they naturally don't produce any CO2 emissions. I think that's also the wrong way, but yeah.
Although if you think about it, if you, for example, Netflix, right? I mean, they have, I don't know, actually, it would be interesting. I don't know how much CO2 it takes to watch a movie.
Immensely. Yes.
Because of the server costs, basically, right? I mean, I think Netflix is also hosted by AWS, so Amazon, basically. But I mean, I don't know how much CO2 emits that.
This is quite a lot.
Does somebody know here in the room?
I read something in that direction. It was more like, even when you look at like one picture on Instagram, for example, I don't know the number anymore, but it's really not that little.
I thought the translation of boiling kettle today was interesting with the transaction of Cardano, and 3 minutes versus 23 days for a transaction on Bitcoin. I was like, okay, that's crazy. If you do it like this visually, you know, right?
Yeah, but then like when we're talking to people outside of crypto, like I think it's also important to compare Bitcoin against, you know, the gold mining industry and the banking industry. And when you compare the energy usage of Bitcoin to that, Bitcoin is like a minuscule percentage. So, but then that only proves how kind of energy effective Cardano is when you can consider Cardano as a minuscule of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is kind of a fraction compared to the other ones. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying it's good, but I'm like just saying it's important to make that fair comparison between, I guess, what Bitcoin is trying to replace, just so people understand.
There's always this picture, I think on Twitter or somewhere, right, where they say that the dollar is powered basically by the military, right? And if you take that into account, because the dollar wouldn't be world reserve currency if there wasn't the US military. And if you take that into account, these guards, I mean, that's huge.
That's massive.
Huge,
yeah.
Massive energy consumption. And I mean, Bitcoin doesn't have some tanks or people with machine guns and ships and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, because that is that is what's forcing, I guess, the pressure to make sure that we, I guess, use that fiat currency. Like it's not backed by gold; it's backed by a government that can put you behind bars.
Kind of, yeah, actually, yeah.
True.
And I mean, for world trade, the dollar is mostly used, right, for oil. the petrodollar standard. It's called like that because of this.
Yeah,
Put in your mouth, Jacob.
Go on, Sosha.
What did you say, Dan?
The topic earlier, well, yeah, software isn't free for energy use. It's actually quite high if you look at a lot of those kind of services that we're using, and it's high because we want like on demand, fast and high quality all the time, everywhere. I think I'm not sure exactly, but I think watching an hour of Netflix is about 5 kilowatt hours. It's quite substantial. And like the whole Facebook I don't know, I think in 2019 it was around 5,000 gigawatts to run that for a year. It adds up a lot of that, or watching a bit on YouTube, watching Netflix. If you're online and streaming the whole day, that's a lot of usage, right? It's hard to make up for that with your diet.
Yeah, I feel like violence is often. I mean, just when Blaine, said that, the major thing that came to mind was like, we need to have a correlation, some sort of metric that introduces custody, or the probability of violence. Because one of the things, obviously looking at Bitcoin compared to the dollar or gold, and the military backing it, the threat of violence is considerably a lot lower, as well as energy input, right, when you come to Bitcoin, and then even more so when you sort of go even lower to proof of stake, etc. So yeah, I think that's quite an interesting point to make there.
Can you elaborate on that? Why there's less violence in proof of work versus proof of stake?
So for example, if I wanted to shut down a mining operation in a context of proof of work, the amount of energy that would take one to actually find out what co-opting, first and foremost, a mining operation, it's not necessarily like, okay, I need to get more energy than you. If you think about it, if I can be able to easily locate the geographical location of the operation, right, because it's not exactly discrete, because these things take up like warehouse scale operations. So once I've found geographically where you are, if I have a bigger stick than you, I don't need to have bought all the ASICs, all the patented hardware, or have built the environment close to a cheap, relatively cheap energy source. I just need to have a bigger stick than you, right? So comparing that to proof of work, and Charles has even alluded to this on a number of occasions, where you can just pick up and like move your stake pool operation from one place to another, right? And finding out where someone is running the stake pool in and of itself is not as easy as it is to find out where someone is running a mining proof of work operation. So yeah, from a security standpoint, I feel like that's often not really spoken about. And one thing that I tend to think about a lot is security as relates to violence, because we're going through this shift. Whenever there's a shift in power, violence often tends to be a resort that people sort of default to. And in this particular instance, I feel like this one particular aspect of transition isn't getting enough, or its fair due, and yeah, I'm hoping that happens before it's, I suppose, a bit too late. so I mean, I suppose I can sort of expand a little bit more on that, but I want to sort of shift over to a particular point I wanted to propose here is when it comes to thinking about sustainability, one thing that personally puts me off is the virtue signaling. And this is, it has been and will continue to be a point of contention between me and other people, right? Say within the green movement, right? I'm quite a pragmatist in this regard. And so one thing that I quite liked at the beginning of Catalyst was we had this book club where we read books around governance and sort of economics and so on, and we would actually get together and talk about the varying perspectives on this. So one book that with regards to the climate that I quite like is the one by Patrick Moore. I've put it in the chat. The co-founder of Greenpeace, and basically he isn't as alarmist, or he is a skeptic of the alarmist point of view that most media or corporations are sort of harping on. I mean, he's not saying that we should not care about man's effect on his environment. His whole thing is it's about proportions, right? He gives a good example of salt is good for you, but guess what? Take too much salt and you're a dead person. So it's about moderation, or about, what's the word, about a balance. So if anyone would be interested in sort of having conversations about I suppose some books, balancing nuance, exactly, it is tricky, social, but that's where that's where the battle happens, kind of thing. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thanks for listening.
Hey, I would be really much interested in something like that, like discussing about interesting theories, ideas, books. About all of these topics. So you stopped doing the book club?
Yeah.
We read the Tarot, which is one of the oldest books ever written, and there's no single text in it. It's only images, and it's super interesting, and it has a lot to do about what you just said. And you're all invited to join every Sunday on the Secret Text Discord server. You can get yourself knowledge fix right there.
Wait, what are you talking about on that Discord?
Every Sunday we have a tarot talk where we talk about the Book of Thoth, the tarot, and we also sometimes lay spreads to each other. So we read the tarot to each other. We discuss how it's built, what it's made upon. We sometimes talk about the myths behind it, what other influences it created, and so on and so forth. Because a lot of perennial philosophy literature, which is originating from the Hermetic philosophy, also is integrated in the tarot, and it's just a nice box to unpack with a lot of things inside. It's fun. I wish I had a link.
Can you write the name down? I don't know what to Google.
I mean, it's my Discord server from the project Secret Text.
No, Portalo or what?
Tarot, the card deck.
Tarot.
Tarot.
And is there philosophy behind tarot cards?
Tarot.
Sorry, I'm very unknowledgeable.
Yeah, come. We will discuss. Yeah, of course there's. I mean, there's.
Okay, so I'm sorry to be that silly, but I always thought, like, you go to the how do you say Jahrmarkt?
Fortune teller.
Yeah, exactly. You go to the fortune teller, and then they put out their tarot cards, like, you want to see your future. Like, Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You can use it as a tool for divination. I think that's the term for it. But like the really, you can use it intrinsically for for knowledge of self, because it's basically what it is. It's a way to communicate with the subconscious, because the subconscious talks in images. You don't have a textual dialogue with your subconscious. It's always that's why you dream. Your subconscious always gives you content in images, and the tarot is just a way to capture this with images that are really powered up with symbolism, so that your subconscious can reflect what it is thinking about a situation through all the images in this specific card that you pulled in a specific context. So Carl Jung also wrote a lot about tarot and about the archetypes that make up the major arcana. There's so much to talk about, guys. Really, if you have questions, because I don't want to pirate this meeting, but if you're interested about this, want to know more and have questions, come by the Discord server every Sunday. Usually about 2 hours or something. We talk about
which time? Which time?
We try to accommodate, but usually in the evening, like 9, 10, 11 p.m. UTC. Sometimes we have a vote if there are a lot of people that want to come, to make a time where everyone fits, but something.
Interesting.
I'm happy that you're so positively freaked about it. I think now is a really good time, like in terms of where we are as a society, to bring these tools back into the focus and to really teach people how to use them. I mean, you can use them as a play cards, you can use them for fortune telling, for all this kind of stuff, but there's also really a serious application to it. And no matter from what angle you're coming from, if you continue to engage, you will eventually arrive at this deep knowledge hidden in there, and it's really fantastic when you can speak with it. It's yeah. Goosebumps all around.
Goosebumps. Interesting. Yeah.
Cool, guys. I think I'm gonna jump off. But it was nice talking to you. Although I didn't hear so much about the project, etc. But I think you had some good conversations already before. And yeah, so see you all around.
Take care, Jacob.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm also going to leave because I have to fully focus on this NFT drop now. I'm doing some test mints, putting out some more tweets and getting it into the crypto, trying to get into the crypto world through Twitter Spaces tonight. So yeah, a bit of work to do now. Thank you so much, guys. This was a really fun conversation, and hope to see you around.
Good luck with the mint.
Yes,
Thanks.
good.
I will let you know how it went in the coming days. No worries. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.